During the monsoon of 1977, one of my tasks as head of security was to make sure mangy dogs didn't get into the ashram. I blocked the ashram gates with wire mesh, but the dogs were still getting in. Then I discovered that they were coming in through the drainage pipes in the upper garden. I had to wade into the dense vegetation there in order to block those passages. Afterwards, I began to feel ill. I thought it was the flu. A homeopath in the ashram agreed, but every 2 days in the early afternoon I got worse. Baba sent the head of Kalyan Hospital and a couple of other doctors to my room to examine me. The doctors concluded that I had an amoebic abscess. They wanted to take me to Kalyan Hospital, a crowded, fly-infested facility nearby. Not knowing that one of them was the chief of Kalyan, I said I'd rather die than go to Kalyan Hospital. They reported their diagnosis to Baba. Though I had been taking chloroquine, he advised them to treat me for malaria. The next day, I was sicker than ever. I felt as though an elephant were standing on my chest. In the 100-degree heat, I couldn't stay warm. When I wasn't freezing, I was burning up. My temperature hit 106 degrees Fahrenheit. I lay on my bed, wrapped in 6 blankets, and still my teeth chattered. Suddenly, I was out of my body, looking down from near the ceiling. I was no longer an individual. Everything was still, and everything was perfect. I could see my body on the bed, but it was as if my seeing was everywhere, and I was everything. Then a decision was made, simply made, not by me, that I would return to my body. Back in my body, I opened my eyes and looked through them. At that point, Baba declared that I had drug-resistant malaria and that I was to be quarantined in the ashram and treated with pure quinine. He established my regime. I was fed only chapati with no oil and boiled vegetables with no salt or spices. The only thing I was allowed to drink was the water from the boiled vegetables. The quinine nauseated me terribly and made my ears ring constantly. Since it was the monsoon season, everything was mildewed, and I couldn't bear the smell of my mattress. So I had someone take it away, and I slept instead on the wooden board of my bed. I often lay in the fetal position on the stone floor in a corner of the room. At one point, I was given anti-nausea pills, but they agitated me so intensely that Nursey, Baba's nurse, stayed with me until they wore off. I so appreciated that. The ordeal went on for about 2 months. Once I felt a bit better, I organized security shifts by talking to my crew through the screened window of my room. When I finally left my room, my chest was caved in and I couldn't stand up straight. I weighed less than 100 pounds. I walked into the dining room where Baba was about to give a talk, and he was happy to see me. I was even happier to see him, and relieved. I knew that the malaria was a karmic event. The ordeal burned up a tremendous amount of anger in me. Once I recovered, I knew that running security was no longer right for me, and I waited for the opportunity to move on. It turned out that I had suffered from 2 kinds of malaria at once, falciparum, which is the most deadly, and a milder form that remained in my system and would resurface annually. From that time on, Baba unfailingly kept me supplied daily with a papaya and bitter melon, which contains natural quinine. Even on the world tour, he made sure that papayas and bitter melon were provided for me. The following year, when the malaria returned, I was weak. Baba gave me a vile-tasting but effective Ayurvedic medicine and insisted that I come and stand near him at the back stair. He wanted to make sure that I didn't fall into being sickly. Baba saved my life, and then he worked for years to keep me healthy.